We are going deep tonight. Brandon Angelo, Matt Waldman, one night before the NFL draft. And we got a good show in store for you. What do you say?
It's Christmas in April, so yeah, it's one of those times where everything leading up. Obviously, there's such a build up to it. There's mock drafts, and there's rumblings of trading up, trading down, targeting XYZ players. So at this time around night, we'll be able to get some clarity on some of this stuff, and it'll be a fun weekend of drafting.
For sure. So we're going to talk about favorite landing spots, one at each of the skill positions. Player we think is going to go higher, player we think is going to go lower, favorite player that may be undrafted. We'll talk about some wild predictions, teams that we think are going to take maybe a quarterback, but might not be ready to have one as have a rookie quarterback that we think that's going to happen, and maybe the same thing with a running back, where who's the running back that winds up in a awful landing spot. So
Love it.
that's what we're gonna start off. So let's start off with favorite landing spots. Start off with quarterback. What's your favorite landing spot for a quarterback in this class?
I'm gonna say the LA Rams.
Okay.
And I think this is one of those where I think McVay and Snead are looking for the successor to Matt Stafford. And when you look on to 26, in my opinion, I see a couple guys like in Sellers and obviously Manning. But besides that, it's kind of murky to dictate guys that are higher end talents, especially ones that the Rams might be able to grab without trading significant capital to do so. And this year you have Milroe, who's not projected to go that early, but we could be surprised. And Shadir Sanders and Jackson Dart. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those three guys is an LA Ram by the end of the weekend. And with McVay, he's, like I said, looking for a successor. And I think it makes sense to sit behind Matt Stafford for a year or two. Any of those three guys would benefit from that, I think, greatly. And I think Shadur Sanders has a chance to slide there. That's 26, I believe, in the first. Milroe as well. I don't think he's going to be taken there unless Tomlin at 21 really likes him, I think. And then Dart, I don't think, I think he can go around that range as well, late first, early second round. And I think that's going to be an interesting spot for what they need versus are they going to try and secure a future asset for them right now and wait behind Matthew Stafford for a couple of years and see what happens. What about you?
I love it. I'm gonna go with one that's a little off the wall.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Love
say
off the
that
wall.
I'm gonna say the Detroit Lions.
Oh, okay.
Because Jared Goff has 3 years left on his 4-year deal. He's 30
Okay.
years old, and I just don't believe Hendon Hooker is going to be the future.
Sure.
I just don't think he's. I think he's a backup quarterback at best if he's done his homework. I just think that that's where we're at. But I
Sure.
could see with this strong offensive line, with the great run game, if they can get a quarterback in the second or third round that they feel pretty good about, maybe even a little lower than that, and just let them sit for a couple of years. Do the Jordan Love kind of sit for a
Yep.
couple of years, let them work. Maybe preferably get an athletic guy who can create, and you can use him the way the Eagles used Jalen Hurts with the run game, or with Lamar Jackson with the run game. I think you can kind of bank that quarterback and give them the really the time to get their bandwidth right, to continue to working at their craft, have a veteran quarterback who's not threatened about his job, who can lead that room, and you give him a chance in 3 years to, in a couple of years, maybe after a couple of years, you give him a chance to see what you have,
Right.
depending on how Goff's doing. And I think that's, or you can turn him around after preseason looks, and if he looks good in the preseason, but you have questions about him long term, you probably can trade him for a higher pick based on what he's going to look like on film when he's
Sure.
filled in or whatever he's done. So to me, the Lions are in a good place where, do they need a lot of help? No. They're arguably a Super Bowl contender right now, remaining as such. Can you get one player that might really make a difference? Sure, but you're not going to have to draft a quarterback in the first round to do what I'm saying. You might
Right.
get the guy that falls that could be a real benefit to you to the second or third round.
Yeah, I agree.
So what about running back?
As a Bears fan, I'd like to say Chicago, but honestly, I think Denver. I
Yeah,
think with Sean Payton, he's been itching to get his Kamara, right? He's been itching to get the playmaker that he needs to make that offense go. And I think Estime is a good poor man's Ingram in a way, in terms of what they want to do with that secondary back in the Peyton offense. But he's itching to get his guy that can make plays in the passing game and be a guy that can go get explosives and just be an overall playmaker for that offense. And Travion Henderson's the name that comes to mind. He'll be there in the middle first round for Denver. Will he go there? I don't know, but I think in the second, third round, fourth round, there's gonna be some guys that profile as that type of player, whether they have to grow into that role like a Brashard Smith, or whether they're a little more ready to take the reins on that type of player, the joker that Sean Payton likes to call it. I think that is a big one for fantasy and for reality, because Sean Payton's offense thrives when it has that type of back who can run the angle and option routes, who can stand and pass protect. Just being such a steady piece for the offense from a playmaking standpoint. I mean, Sean Payton's best years was Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, just ripping teams apart and angle and option routes.
yep.
He misses that, guaranteed. And I think he wants to bring in a guy that can do that, stress the defense in a different dimension. And I think he gets that in this class.
I agree. I think that's the most obvious place. I think that is a good fit and where you can get an option right away to play. I love that you mentioned the Bears because I would agree. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens. Derrick Henry's 31. We know this team thrives in the run game, and they don't have anybody else behind that who can even approximate Derrick Henry. Certainly Justice Hill is a nice all-around scat back and who can give you a little bit more than a scat back for extended amount of games if you needed him to do it. But it's a bit of stress on him, I think. And he's and then you have Keaton Mitchell who's coming off of that ACL tear. Similar type of player.
Sure.
Rasheen Ali, I mean, listen, he's a nice story. And I think that there's some skills to his game and he could be a bit of a sleeper. But, in this rich class, and like you said, you can get guys after the third round probably in this class who are very good that might not be as good as some of the back, might be better than some of the backs we're going to see in the next 2 to 3 years collectively. So why wouldn't you have someone compete with Ali, who is more of a bigger back profile to Derrick Henry, who has a bigger, a better athletic profile at a size strength standpoint that's a little bit closer to Henry, or at least in the standard category of a bell cow back, and that you can have the back of the future because you're competing right now with the line you've got. You can go right now. So if Henry gets hurt, you've lost a huge piece of your offense. But
100%.
So I think that the Ravens would be wise to get a deal here.
Yeah, I agree. I think this class is so deep at the position, it would be extremely wise to just take some of the pressure off of him, but also to add another dimension to that run game, which is already a top 3 rushing attack in the NFL, in my opinion. You get some of these guys in this class that can just overall just stress defenses. RJ Harvey comes to mind because he was really good in the RPO game.
Right.
On read options, holding the end and being a great decision maker. But it adds another dimension from a play speed standpoint.
Sure.
Right? Obviously smaller back, but that's the type of stuff that you're not going to see in every class, because a guy like RJ Harvey is probably a second round type talent in most classes, early third round. He might go in the fourth.
Yeah.
right? There's some of these guys that are talented guys that might go in the fifth. And so this is the class for a
Yeah.
team like the Ravens to go ahead and pick up a legitimate starting caliber back in the later rounds for sure.
And you might be able to get two. So if you want Harvey to play the Hill Mitchell role,
Right.
you can also probably pick up a Damian Martinez,
Yep.
probably in that same range, and have a guy who can be you can have your A back, B back
Yeah,
scenario. And there's a few other guys that fit that scenario. All right, so
for sure.
what about wide receiver? Where are we at there?
Yeah, I think with receiver, probably the spot that makes the most sense is the Cowboys. I think they need a playmaker out wide to take some pressure off CD Lamb. They don't have one. Jake Ferguson's fine, right? Brandon Cooks, I don't think he's there. He's going to be there anymore. And he's up in age as well. But they need a secondary playmaker to CD Lamb for that offense to keep up with some of the big names in the NFC. Like right now, I mean, they're not going to be able to keep pace with the Eagles. They're not going to be able to keep pace with the Commanders. And so that's the tough part. The Lions, it's difficult. So you're going to have to score a lot of points, especially come playoff time, to be competitive. And right now, they just can't. They can't put up enough points. Even if Dak Prescott's 100% healthy off the hamstring, just throwing to CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson, they Turpin isn't really going to get the job done. It's not going to score you 35. And that's what's needed to compete in the NFC. So I would love to see like a Matt Golden, Pat McMillan. I think those are the two obvious names at 12. I think Jerry's targeting someone at 12. But how about a Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland? If they fall to that spot, Warren's the less likely one than Loveland. But even a Colston Loveland, right? If he falls to 12 and Jerry pulls the trigger, that's a really dynamic secondary pass game option that I think is going to really bolster Prescott's statistical profile, but also to bolster that Cowboys offense. It's going to be very much predicated on the pass. I don't see their run blocking getting that much better if they don't prioritize the interior in the first couple rounds of this draft. But I think that's somewhere where I see a secondary option at receiver or tight end being a pretty big boon to the Cowboys offense.
Sure.
What's you?
I'm going to stay in the same division and say the New York Giants because Malik Neighbors, we know that you got yourselves an elite player. Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy who's going to be in the league for 10 years, and he's going to be basically McLeod. Okay, I mean that's which is a nice player, but how productive really is that? And he's he's 6 of one half dozen of another. If you ask me, he's just a guy at what he does as a contributor. Darius Slayton, I know they extended, and he's a nice player as a reserve contributor type who can give you something if you really need. But you've built your trenches, at least enough that you can continue to grow that area. But you're Brian Dable, you're Joe Shane. You've basically argued to the Mara family that if you didn't saddle us with Dave Gettleman's mess at quarterback named Daniel Jones, we'd be playing winning football. Give me a veteran. And they gave him two. They gave him Russ and Jameis. But those guys need weapons. And if I'm going to keep my job, I know that those guys aren't looking at the details as much as they say they are in terms of like the decision makers. They're just looking for wins and stats. They want to see, so I'm going to give them wins and stats. So to me, Luther Burden at, opposite Malik Neighbors seems like the wisest choice from my standpoint, because if Neighbors gets hurt, Burden can carry that load. Maybe not as good as well as Neighbors, but close enough that you're going to be excited about them. And you also give yourself a versatile piece so that then with Neighbors still intact, Neighbors can play the X if he wants to, or the flanker. You can put Burden at flanker. You can put him in any three of the positions, whatever works best. And then when you add another player, you can move one of them to the position that works best, and you're not having a log jam at a position that you don't need. You're not the Patriots who don't understand that everybody's a slot receiver. So
Sure.
on their team,
Good point.
right? So at least with Neighbors and Burden, you have a 1-2 punch that any quarterback would love to play with if they play to their level.
Oh,
of
100%. Yeah.
So if Russell Wilson plays well and they get you to the playoffs this year because your defense has come up enough of a notch, your offensive line's held up well, you can get a running back later, now you're like got a motivated quarterback.
Right.
If he doesn't work out, well, at least, and you got close to the playoffs and you're looking pretty good, the team might look at that and go, well, if Russ didn't get hurt or Jameis, we didn't have to lean on Jameis so hard, maybe we would have gotten there. We were better as a team overall. And they might go, because the Giants have been known to be patient as an organization. So they might look at this and
Sure.
exactly to a fault. But they might look at this and say Russ gets them to the playoffs. They go, okay, next year we're going to get our quarterback of the future, and we have an offense for him to work with, or at least some skill talent. So to me, this is the spot because Wandale can be a bench player. You can use him on special teams. That's great. Darius Slayton, same thing. Come off the bench. He can be helpful to you in a couple of roles. But if you get two guys there and you win too much and you don't get the quarterback slot you wanted, suddenly teams are going to look at the New York Giants and go, well, Dable just got an extension, so we know what Dable is. That's stability. We've got a decent enough offensive line. We got a decent enough defensive front. 2 young weapons. Why wouldn't I want to be the Joe Burrow of the NFC North? That might be the possibility here with those 2 guys. And you're giving Theo Johnson another chance to see a year or two. So it's not like you're in the market for a top-tier pass-catching tight end yet because you guys invested in that. So then the most logical spot to me is receiver.
Agreed. Yeah, I think that would be one of the most dangerous receiving duos in the NFL.
Yeah.
Because those guys can each play all 3 spots.
Yes.
And that's a really important, impactful thing. And 2, Burden can be an extension of your run game.
Yes.
Which isn't that great.
No.
So that's another plus for getting a guy like that. And you're right. I mean, especially if at 3, they're likely not going to go get Shedeur Sanders. No. Likely not, as they shouldn't. It's likely going to be Abdul Carter or if someone trades up. But that means in the second, you're not going to prioritize quarterback.
Yeah.
Go get a playmaker.
Yeah.
And Burden is a first-round talent. Burden is, in my opinion, outside of Travis Hunter, the highest ceiling receiver in this class.
Right. Yeah.
Go chase the ceiling, because if you don't have the elite quarterback, at least go get the veterans and playmakers. And that's you look what Jameis Winston did last year with Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tobin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Russell Wilson as well. He wasn't, you're throwing to George Pickens.
Yeah.
And Pat Freiermuth. That's really it. So get these guys some playmakers and see what they can do. And I'm of that camp. If you can't hit the home run at quarterback, go get your veterans some playmakers.
Yeah.
Some high-end ones too.
Yeah, exactly. And ones that actually have enough career window length that your next quarterback will benefit. And they might even help teach them, because I'll talk about where they want the ball. They run good routes.
Right.
Now the quarterback doesn't have to think about whether the receiver's running the right route or not.
Right.
That they understand what they're doing. And they've had some years to do it. So how about tight end? Where's an ideal landing spot for you?
I say New York Jets.
Okay.
And this is a 3-pronged deal. 1, Engstrom, who's now the offensive coordinator in New York, was, I believe, the pass game coordinator in Detroit. Loves Sam Laporta. Aaron Glenn was in Detroit. Seen what Sam Laporta can do for that offense. Justin Fields we forget Cole Kmet had over 700 yards and 6 touchdowns on 90 targets. 90 targets. 2023 in Chicago.
Yeah.
You add a Tyler Warren at 7. In that offense that is devoid of playmakers outside of Garrett Wilson. Yeah, that's a big wheels up scenario. I think that's a spot where any tight end, Warren, Loveland, shoot, Harold Fannin.
I prefer Harold Fannin because to me he is Laporta metrically and height weight wise.
I think he's the closest out of those 3
Yes.
to Sam Laporta, especially as a blocker. That's the thing. He's the best blocker out of those 3, in my opinion. And that would be something in the 3rd. I think that 3rd, maybe 4th round, they take a swing there if they don't go get Warren at 7. But yeah, that's a big spot for me with those 3 items, with, Angstrom being the pass game coordinator in Detroit, Aaron Glenn being in Detroit, and Justin Fields having his best statistical season, giving 90 targets to Cole Kmet, who is not the talent of either of these 3 guys, in my opinion, we're talking about. I think it could be a big, big boon to the tight end position, especially in fantasy, for sure.
No, I love it.
How about you?
Yeah, I think that's terrific. For me, I think that we're looking at the Philadelphia Eagles because they are. We know they're already strong. They're the champs. They're strong in the trenches. They just need to keep setting themselves up to have good weapons. And what's a rich class right now with weapons? Tight end. Dallas Goedert, potential out. This year, but then after that, they can void his deal at 31. It's pretty much, he's a UFA at 31. So you have a player who can play a year behind him. And who's a player that I think is a little bit underrated that you could get at the end of the 1st round? Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
And Mason Taylor would
talk
fit
about
there.
A steady Eddie.
Yeah. Just, smooth, good route runner, decent blocker. And because they do everything right in that front, or more things right than not, you're going to give him a chance to accelerate his learning curve because he's not dealing with an error-prone football team.
Right.
And he can watch a good player in action, get some opportunities in 2 tight end sets, and be able to work his way into becoming the successor to Dallas Goedert. And if you need to lean on him more as a receiver because maybe down the line one of your receivers has to fly the coop due to expense or whatever, and they decide they can move forward and they fail with whatever draft pick they get to replace Brown or Devonta Smith at some point, and they can't find it, well, they can still lean on Taylor, and he could be that guy and end up having a very strong thing. So you want redundancy in place with your team, thinking about the future. So there are a lot of teams that I think when they draft a tight end, they go, well, we maybe need more of a blocker here, and then we can worry about our problem with tight end later. But right now is your luxury. Your luxury. Take him in this. If maybe he falls to the end of the 2nd and you can get him. But I bet a team like the Eagles will go, oh, what the heck? We might be able to get him late in the 1st, or we can trade up into the 2nd a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point. I think something that might happen this weekend is Dallas Goedert gets traded.
Yeah.
I think that's something that is in the cards. I think with his lack of durability, he's getting older. Production isn't what it used to be. Yeah, I think you go get a guy. I mean, they have everything they need offensively. If they can get someone who's just a little more week-to-week consistent, then that tight end room is going to look a whole lot cleaner. I mean, Grant Calcaterra is an okay secondary piece, right? But I mean, I think you want someone who's going to be really steady down to down, like Mason Taylor isn't. Look, he doesn't do any one thing at an extremely high level. He's just reliable in the low red zone. He's a good blocker. He smooth route runner.
Catches, no problem. gets yards
Nothing.
after the catch.
Yep.
He's kind of Mark Andrews.
Sure.
Because Mark Andrews to me is steady Eddie most of the time, unfortunately this year. But which I
Yeah,
hate
no,
for
for
him. But
sure.
that's why it was so unfortunate because he was such a steady Eddie, and with another team where they don't emphasize a tight end, he'd probably just be seen as a steady Eddie guy and not the fantasy
Yeah,
guy that he
just a
was.
dude.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, Hunter Henry's is someone that comes to mind when I think of Mason.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
one of those guys that's going to stick around the league for a while. He's good enough to start anywhere,
yeah,
right? Or at least see significant snaps anywhere.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of what you're looking for. That type of player if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. And Mason Taylor definitely embodies that for sure.
So we're going to move on to talking about a player that we think is going to go higher tomorrow. And I'm going to start. And I'm just going to say it's Jaylen Milroe. And I think that, he got invited to the draft. And now we're hearing a bunch of anonymous scouts talk about, there was one, apparently an AFC scout who said, if he stayed, all the skill players were going to have a mass exodus from Alabama, from what I'm hearing.
I saw that.
Yeah, okay. And then we're hearing all sorts of other stuff like that, which tells me we're in silly season, and we're getting guys who are saying bad stuff, so they hope that this guy falls to them. But it's
Right.
like, let's just read some anonymous scout stuff.
Oh,
Brandon,
here we go.
just for the heck of it, okay? He has one of the best arms of the group, but he plays crazy. I don't even think gunslinger is the right word. He's reckless. I remember seeing Brett Favre in his bowl game his senior year. In that game, he had 3 or 4 plays you thought were a little off the wall. This guy might have 20 plays in a game where you go,
come on,
what are you doing? And this was May 8th, 2017, about Patrick Mahomes. Okay, so there's one. Okay, how about another one? All right. Some scouts believe this player is going to struggle to elevate his play beyond a game manager, and that he's has an entitled attitude and lacking in certain leadership qualities, suggesting potential locker room challenges. Okay, they say that he takes unnecessary sacks and makes questionable decisions, and they don't think Jalen Hurts can maintain a high level of performance consistently when facing pressure. The entitled attitude was the best one. Are you kidding?
This is, I love reading all those because there's not a basis on it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, you're telling us XYZ individuals entitled when we've seen nothing about that.
Here's my 4 favorite quotes about Lamar Jackson.
Oh, yes. This is going to be good.
We played Deshaun Watson and Jackson has no shot at playing quarterback in the NFL. None, said one anonymous coach. He's not that good, said another anonymous coach. When you hear of all the anecdotal stories about the person, it's not that he's a bad kid. He's been so insulated. It's going to be a culture shock when he really learns how a locker room really operates and how it really works inside a building, said another scout. He makes all the throws. I think if you put him in the right system and use his athletic traits and his toughness, let him throw the ball 20 to 25 times until he learns the game more, he can learn the lead and more, all that. You could have something. So you had 1 out of 3 right there that was actually halfway positive. The others were just completely dismissive, So,
Right.
Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, So, when I read that there's going to be a mass exodus of, whatever, that's bullshit. So, to me, I think that he's going to go earlier. I think all of this is just to try and see if he can fall to like the second round. And there may be, and I think what may happen is a team's either going to trade up into the first round, or he's going to be like a mid-second round pick somewhere that a team trades up to get. And there's going to be a lot of drama made about how he fell and he's in the green room. And they're going to make this seem like he's Aaron Rodgers, when in fact, up until about a month and a half ago, most people were projecting him as a third or fourth round pick. But the NFL media is going to make it seem dramatic, like somehow he was a first round pick, and they're precipitating the drop, when in fact it's he's risen that amount. And from where it is.
You're 100% right. It was, I liken it to Malik Willis. Remember when he came out of Liberty?
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, he's going to be the second overall pick.
Yeah.
And then like you zoom out and you're like, no one even knew who this kid was like 8 months ago. Like, what? And now you're like, oh, he's falling. I'm like, is he falling or did he just rise up to where he actually should be taken?
Right.
And yeah, I think Milroe's a first round talent.
Right.
I think if you're a GM that is looking to really take the long-term swing, he's the perfect fit. Yeah. You sit him behind a veteran for a year or two, help him learn the ins and outs of playing the position at this level. Any quarterback benefits from that, in my opinion. He's going to be just fine. But yeah, I think he can go as early as the teens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like teams will trade up for him because I think what's going to happen is he's one of those guys. There's a few guys that have pegged in this first round. There are teams that want to trade up for a Milroe because those guys don't come around every class.
That's right.
And that's the big thing. Is not that their current level of talent is that high. It's those type of guys from the archetypical standpoint aren't every class dudes.
That if Jaylen Milroe is available in the third round, somebody needs to drag the Detroit Lions to make him their successor long term to Jared Goff. Just let that dude sit.
I honestly do not think he gets out of the first.
I'm with you. I think
I would be shocked if he slides past like 25, 26, a team doesn't trade up and go get him. Because Giants, Browns,
those are the
Steelers.
2 teams. Yeah, those are the 3, really. Those are the 3 teams that they should. Now, I would say my skeptical nature would probably say that the Giants are the best shot of doing that, though Cleveland probably would take the chance unless of course their owner does the thing that you would classically say is a bumble, which is you take some really shitty shots on players who didn't deserve it, and now you're twice burnt, 5 times shy, and now the real deal opportunity comes along, and now you're too scared. So, I could see that being a total Cleveland move. And Pittsburgh, sure. I could go either way. I could see that happening, but then I'm just like, do I really want him working with Arthur Smith? So it's that.
I think the answer is for any quarterback working with Arthur Smith is a resounding no.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Who's the one player you think is going to go lower tomorrow or starting tomorrow?
Lower. And I think this is because...
Oh, we didn't even ask you about your player.
Mine was actually Jaylen Milroe.
So
I wrote down Jaylen Milroe.
Okay.
That's why I was like, he can go in the teens. I literally have it written down. That's my...
Beautiful.
That's my guy. Him and Matt Golden, I think, will go higher than people anticipate, right?
I like that.
Lower, I think Tet McMillan.
Yeah.
I can see him dropping because of the character concerns. Mostly because, so I think you've probably seen the clip of him saying he doesn't watch film, whatever. Fine. He was like a freshman and sophomore.
Sure.
And then I really like McShay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? McShay. Awesome. He's great. And he was talking about how there would be times at practice at Arizona when McMillan wouldn't practice hard unless there were scouts in attendance. Or the route discipline wasn't great because he wouldn't practice at full speed. And I'm like, holy cow. In my notes, That's what literally shows up. And when I put two and two together, I'm like, you know what? Maybe NFL teams do see this. Maybe it's all just fluff, whatever. But I've said it since the beginning of the process with McMillan. He's not the Mike Evans, Drake London dog that we think he is. He's not in that caliber of competitor. And it shows up. So that's why I'm like, are NFL teams going to see that? And they're like, I'd rather get XYZ who's a little safer. Because if you do make him, let's say he gets drafted by the Carolina Panthers at 8, I think, and he's the number one target, he's going to get eaten alive by number one DBs year one. Absolutely eaten alive.
Because you feel me the same way. My thoughts over the past few weeks when people ask me about him and why I have him ranked 5th compared to, people have him 1st or 2nd.
I have him that same. I have him 5 as well.
Is because while Matt Harmon does great work, his modeling is based on the number of routes that had success. There's process, but the overall is result. It's like, did he get separation? Did he get separation on these routes? That's what he's looking at.
Sure.
So there's some process there, but it's mostly result driven. So where you can potentially have a hole where you need something to complement it is film that looks at the process behind the result. And when you look at the process behind the result, you go, yeah, he's getting open because he knows some footwork, he knows some hand counters, and he knows how to, and he's faster or bigger than these guys. But he doesn't have the craft to get open in the 100%. NFL when you project the craft. If you're actually counting things like, is he patient and sudden with these moves? Does he know how to execute the move at the level the pros do? Like I had Dave Kluge on, football guys. We watched tape together last week just privately, and we watched a receiver, and I said, okay, here's a receiver getting separation. He had a too quick or a double up, and he used an arm over or a shed. I said, now let's go look at Ocho Cinco or Devontae Adams or one of those players perform the same move. And he's like, that's night and day different. And I'm like, yeah, because one has craft, the other doesn't. So it's like you want to score for giving him credit for having those things, but you also need to have a higher standard of like what's going to beat a defensive back in the NFL. And it's not going to be performing it all at one speed.
Right. Yeah. And that was my biggest knock on McMillan is there isn't enough know-how right now for him to walk into a receiver room and say, I'm the guy.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Can he be the guy? Yeah, he has the frame, the length, but he's not a good accelerator. He struggles when given a two-way go because he's not sudden or subtle enough. So it's just really tough to project him into a wide receiver one role. So are you taking a secondary receiver in the top 10? Are you taking one in the teens? Maybe. Are you taking one in the 20s? Probably. So I wouldn't be shocked if he falls the Packers at 23. That'd be an interesting spot because he would be the wide receiver one, which I don't know in that division with the defensive play that they have. I don't know if that's a good thing.
Right.
Facing Jalen Johnson twice a year. Good luck. But I think he can fall the 20s. But he's also, if he falls past like 12, 15, he's a trade-up candidate for some of those teams. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of a risk for teams with him for multiple reasons. But again, I think he's still a good player. But I don't think he's a wide receiver one right now, for sure.
I'm going to go with a player that I think everybody could guess based if they've been listening to me over the past few weeks. But I truly believe this because I've talked to other people who are connected in this sense of like, and what they think of the player, and that's Omarion Hampton.
Mhm.
There are a lot of people. Media seems to think he's like 1B to Ashton Genty's 1A. And yeah, I think he's more like 3C to Ashton Genty's 1A. And that doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it's
Three
like
C.
3C, not
Oh
3Z.
God.
But like, if he was 3Z, that would be like I'd have to look at the bottom of my board. But he's probably, I think he's one of the top 10 backs in the league in the draft, but he's on the lower end of that to me than he is the higher end, and that's still
Sure.
capable. But let's look at it this way: the Miami Dolphins got Devon Achane in the third round. The Chiefs got Isaiah Pacheco in what, the sixth round? You know,
Sixth, seventh, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. And then, I don't know, that kid out of Oregon that everybody seems to be impressed with from Tampa. They got him
Yeah.
on the early third day of the draft. So I just don't get the idea of how suddenly teams are gonna, reverse field and like start picking backs in the first and second round. Like, I don't think we're gonna have any more than really two to three backs in the first three rounds.
Interesting.
I
I
and
think that's a really good.
and I'm
Yeah.
gonna and I'm gonna get wilder with that later. But
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think that's
I
valid.
just don't think we are. I think that they're gonna look at this and go, yes, we know it's not, because we know that this is not a rich class with a lot of positions. Like defensive end has a variety of different players, but some teams are not as high on Abdul Carter, I think, as the media is high on this dude. And I've had some people talk, like Dan Hampton of the Scout Academy. He's watched this guy, and he's kind of like, I've never seen a defensive end literally with his back turned so often early in a play. And you look at some of the things that are going on with him, and you go, he's not Parsons. He's not Micah Parsons. And then when you look at, linebacker, not particularly strong, and you start looking at the classes and you go, but at the same time, you start to look at it and you go, there's some there are some developmental guys at defensive end, or guys who could develop into all-around players like Mikael Williams, who is an excellent athlete who just wasn't asked to be an edge rusher at Georgia. But he can defend the run, and he's a power rusher who has the skills to become an edge rusher if you give him a year. And what's the easiest
Sure.
position to develop, at least from what we've seen historically in the past 20 years? Defensive end. So there are a lot of guys that it's worth. Who would you rather take a chance on? A DE in the first or second round who has great athletic ability like Shamar Stewart, who maybe hasn't done much on that level, but you can go to the fifth round and get yourself a running back. But you may not be able to get the
Absolutely.
athlete along the trenches, because the trenches are where size, arm length, weight, height, speed, all those physical skills have to be in a tighter box. So you're
Correct.
not getting them later. You got to do it now. So if you're going to take your chance, you're going to do it there, and then you can go later to get these guys, especially when you've seen all the success with these guys. So when I look at, Amari and Hampton, when I would ask other people I knew who were connected on a level that either have scouted or do scout, and I'd say, what do you think of Amari and Hampton? And they're like, I honestly, I don't get all the hype. Like, he's a good running back, but he's not. But I don't get it. And like, I didn't really ask them extensively why. Of ones that I did after the draft, was he gets pushed around a lot as a blocker, and NFL teams don't like that. So he may have a success rate here, but projecting to players that he actually faces, he gets rattled around a lot more against defenders he's going to have to block. And I just see him fall to the ground a lot more often than he should, within in the box in the first 10 yards. And I just don't think he's as, he's big, but he doesn't run to his size. And what I noticed is his hips aren't always in the right spot. He's like Isaiah Spiller I used to watch, where it's like he goes
Yeah.
to collide against somebody and his pads are north-south, but his hips are east-west. Your power base is eliminated. The blocking, like he drops his head, and his top speed's great. His acceleration is just below starter level for me, and I'm very forgiving about like athleticism compared to most people. And I'm thinking, how's he going to get into the secondary as often as he did in Carolina, which I didn't think was all that often relative to his speed to make these plays. So I look at him and I go, yeah, he's a contributor, a B back to an A back, an aspiring one, but Ashton, Jonte, and him should be mentioned in the same breath.
There is a Grand Canyon of difference. I'm a little lower on Hampton as well for similar reasons. I think the biggest thing for me is, you alluded to it, it's the through contact work. There's not like a plan down to down for how you are attacking defenders. And he takes the hardest, most unnecessary hits I've ever seen for a back his size. Yeah. Like some of the, like there's sometimes at the second level where you can just run through a backer and, get 3-4 extra yards and just scrape for the first down. And he's getting like upended. Yeah. And I'm like, why was that the solution there? Like, and that's the thing is, good athlete. That's the thing. Good service level athlete. Good plus top end speed. I thought he was a plus accelerator at times in a linear fashion, actually in a curved linear fashion, more than linear. But the cognitive stuff too, he doesn't process moving pictures well. If the gap isn't clean, he's not going to clean it with his eyes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's something where I think he really struggles, is the game isn't slow enough for him to move the chess pieces with his eyes. And that is something where if he wants to be a starter in the league, that's a prerequisite. You have to have that type of cognitive skill set. The between the ears skills have to be higher end. Defenses are too fast, and they disguise things too well at the next level. So yeah, I think that's tough. I think he's a James Robinson caliber player.
Yeah.
Which is good. That's fine.
Yeah.
But he's not Ashton Genty.
Yeah.
Like that, like we can stop that right now. Like
I think James was a better processor of information than Omarion is.
Way better.
Yeah.
Way. And that's the thing is, I don't think he's even James Robinson right now.
Yeah.
I think he could be James Robinson with better top end speed. But right now, he's a lesser version.
He's Latavius Murray, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking back to Raiders Latavius Murray when it was like he had that massive like 90-yard run. Then it was like 38 3-yard runs.
Yeah.
Merged in between. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is people projecting him early 20s to the Broncos. And I'm like, Sean Payton is not going to put up with that shit.
No.
And I think he already has that B back in Estime.
Yeah.
Who showed enough to be that guy. That guy does not that's not the talent guy.
No.
Of the two.
He's the Chris Ivory. He's the, he's the Pierre
Thomas. He's the David Montgomery of the two. Yes. He's just a guy plus, gritty, good decision maker, good blocker, can start if your lead back gets hurt. That's who Estime is. I don't think that's who Peyton is targeting. So when I see all the mocks saying Peyton's targeting Hampton, I don't see it from what Peyton historically likes in a back, and especially an A back. But yeah, I'm in the same camp with Hampton. I think he's my RB 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like, I'm way lower than consensus. I think I would much rather have Cam Scadaboo.
Yep.
Like, it's just someone who runs harder and like actually has a plan for when they hit defenders.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think
every Bears fan wants Cam Scadaboo.
Of course, he's David Montgomery plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's a very similar athlete to Montgomery. I think he's a bit better through direct contact at that point in their careers.
Yeah.
I think Montgomery, and I think he's a better processor than Montgomery. Montgomery was a pretty poor processor coming out of Iowa State. Really wide veer mechanism, always took things outside. Did it early in his career in Chicago when Chicago had, God, was it Mike Davis and Tariq Cohen?
Yeah.
And then Montgomery. But yeah, I think Cam Scatterb would be great in Chicago.
Yeah.
He would.
Sure.
He is such a Chicago freaking bear. It's not even funny. And I think he'd be a good compliment to DeAndre Swift, who's absolutely terrible, but it's fine.
Yeah. And, they just need a guy he just needs to fix his blocking quickly. But that's the thing.
Yeah, very important.
Yeah.
Extremely.
So who do you think's going? You told me who you thought was going lower tomorrow, right? No, you didn't tell me.
Lower?
Yeah.
Oh, I said McMillan.
That's right,
That's
McTet.
McMillan.
That's we talked Tet. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm tired, folks. I've been.
No, I mean, no, we got
My
a
apologies.
tangent going, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm. My memory is shot right now. If John Gruden asked me to call back a play, I'd fail miserably right now.
Oh man, Gruden's feeling nice. Yeah, I freaking love Gruden, man. Oh my gosh, he's my favorite.
I'd probably just say Orange, Ohio, just to see if I can get him to laugh because I know that's where he's from.
Spider 2 white banana.
Orange.
Oh god, I love Gruden.
So who's the favorite player that may be undrafted?
Okay, favorite player that may be undrafted. Lan Larison.
Yeah, there you go.
I just here goes this. I like Lan Larison for similar reasons I liked Dylan Lowby last year, but plus because Lan Larison can play special teams and play everywhere on special teams.
Yeah,
I think he actually has some like potential contributor level qualities.
sure.
I really like him. I think he's a good receiver, a very good receiver out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Can actually play outside at a higher level than most running backs can. But he's really good on special teams. Like, this is going to be your starting kick returner. This is going to be a potential gunner.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be all over the place and can be used, honestly. His best position is a Taysom Hill type player.
Yeah, I get
Like,
it.
that is going to be what he does well. Like, Taysom Hill at tight end is what Larison can kind of be.
I just want him in the NFC North so that, or the I want him in the NFC North so that he can tackle, and not on the Vikings, like on the Bears, so that he can tackle Vikings and just go, well, anything with horns on it is going down. I'm a rodeo champion, or
that alone. I mean,
or whatever.
You sold me. Well, when I saw those clips, I'm like, man, this kid can. This kid's wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I love it. Obvious. Everybody knows the obvious answer, Taj Brooks. So we're gonna skip over that one because if
he goes undrafted, I'll be beside myself.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna prepare for the worst and hope for the best. He probably
I know who you're
go
gonna
fifth or
say.
sixth
Yeah.
round. I'm gonna say Trey Stewart out of Jackson State.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say Mumfield.
I like Mumfield. I do. Mumfield's a favorite. You could put Mumfield, a Kyrie, and Andrew Armstrong all in the same bucket. But I've talked so much about those guys that I'm kind of like, they're favorites, but I want to mention someone else. And so, to me, I think a lot of people keep talking about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and for good reason.
Yeah, he's a player.
He's a player. I don't think Trey Stewart's that far away.
Okay.
He's got some speed. He's got some movement to his game. Similar size. Reminds me also a little bit of Aaron Jones in some respects.
Okay.
Good feet. I think he processes reasonably well for where he plays. We'll have to see what happens up a level or two. But he's a player I'm going to be keeping an eye on, just for like a real long shot. So yeah. So all right. What's your wildest prediction for this draft?
Wildest prediction. I think I have two.
Okay.
One quarterback goes in the first round.
Love it.
Just one. Second one, I think we see two star receivers or semi-star receivers moved in the draft.
Oh, wow.
One, Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
2, George Pickens.
Okay. I get it. Both
I
of them, I
think
get it.
I think that would be my guess. I also think guys like Keyshawn Boutte's moved. Those are kind of the guys I have pegged as guys who might be moved during the draft. And a surprise one, James Cook.
Oh, okay.
I just don't think Buffalo's going to pay him.
Okay.
So I think here goes this. I know a team that will. And a team that needs a back like that, New England Patriots.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have enough cap. They can spend on a back like that. Ramondre Stevenson is fine. He's just a guy. But I think that could be and you can get a James Cook-like player in the 3rd round of this draft.
You could.
You could.
Yeah.
You could.
You could probably get one in the 5th.
Yeah, no shit.
You know,
yeah,
depending on whether Brashard or Etienne
no, for sure.
or Samson falls. Any of those
Samson
three.
is the guy I think, for me, I am most interested to see where he gets drafted because I love his game. Every time I watch him, I move. I watched him again last week, and I'm like, oh shit, I knew him higher.
Yeah.
Like this is, like you notice things about his game. He's not even 21 years old.
Yeah.
That is just really advanced for a 21-year-old kid playing in the SEC, 20-year-old kid playing in the SEC. But yeah, I think James Cook is one out of that group that we mentioned, I think he's another one I think could get moved.
Well, this isn't my wildest prediction, but I will add that I would love to see the Patriots actually draft somebody other than a slot receiver or a flanker slot receiver, because they've moved a little bit to the left and got at least flanker into the equation with their slot, But if they're going to do that, rip the Band-Aid off and get me Savion Williams and put him at the X for the Patriots, and know that if you fuck up and fail with that pick, you can make him a running back, and he can be your wildcat quarterback next to Ramondre in the goal line or in red zone. You don't even need to have Drake May in there for that. You could just take him out.
Honestly.
And that's beautiful. Or you can put him at X and let him run around end arounds and fly sweeps. And I think he's a competent receiver. I think he could become a decent receiver.
Honestly, I think if you're taking a dark horse for the Taysom Hill role in Denver,
that's it.
There's your guy. I mean, because here goes this. I think he can be a better version of Antonio Gibson.
Oh, yeah. I think he's Cordero Patterson. I think that's it.
He's a legit. He has legitimate skills as a ball winning receiver.
Yes.
I think the boots on the ground stuff not that good. Has weird mechanisms when he's attacking the ball, but as a ball in the air winner, he's really good.
Yeah.
And also too, he's great through contact. He's great at reading and redirecting.
Yes.
Better than Omari Hampton.
I have him rated higher than Omari Hampton.
It's just true. It's just true. But I like Omari Hampton. But yeah, from a cognitive perspective, like he sees the game like a back does.
Yes.
And I think I don't know. I think he has starting caliber running back talent. It's just
gap scheme right now. Go? That's what we've seen. We don't know if he could be a zone guy, but as a gap player in this iteration of football, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Get me going on him.
Yeah.
Get me going.
Yeah, I love it.
So, get him to Denver. Get him with Sean Payton.
Oh my goodness. My wildest prediction is an extension of what I said about how there's only going to be maybe 3 backs drafted in the first 3 rounds. I think there's going to be at least 3 teams that pick 2 backs between rounds 4 and 7, and that fantasy GMs are going to be pissed the fuck off because they're going to be looking at like somebody who falls that they think is pretty good, and then it's going to be the Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones selection in Green Bay, and you're going to see like multiple teams do that and take shots.
It's going to be really funny because you're absolutely right. It's going to be like, the Raiders or something take a Quinton Judkins
Yes.
early on. And we're like, okay, wheels up. He's getting all the touches.
Then Dylan
And like
Sampson.
3 rounds later, they're taking Dylan Sampson. You're like, no. Give me my touches back.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think this is the draft for it to happen because there are so like I have 12 starters at running back position. 12. That's the most I've ever had by a long shot. And I could be even low on that. There's guys that are fringe starters that are like up to 15 dudes. Like there are guys that can contribute, like Marcus Yarns.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna get probably drafted in the 6th, 7th round or be a UDFA. Like if this was last year's class, that kid's a top 5, 6, 7 back. Like there are so many dudes in this class that can contribute. So day 3, this draft is a fantasy manager's nightmare.
Yes.
Because you're gonna get so excited on day 1 and day 2 and be like, oh my gosh, like this Quinshon Judkins is going to, or Travion Henderson just went to the Broncos, and then you see Cam Scannaboo going to Denver in the 4th. You're like, oh.
I honestly, like, since I started writing RSP, I was like, oh, this draft class is going to be so disappointing to people because this is going to be the draft class. Everybody's like, I hate fantasy football.
Oh,
like,
it's going to be so
heartbreaking.
Much fun.
Yeah.
Only like the high, honestly, like, unless you're like a Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Barkley, Henry, McCaffrey, like your job isn't like
Damian Martinez is going to get drafted by like the Steelers.
He's coming.
In the 4th round. And then they're going to draft another dude in the 6th. And then, like, what will happen is people will be more excited about the 6th round guy. And then, like, 5 years later, Martinez will still be around.
We're pumped about Jaylen Warren, and then we're gonna see like a hodgepodge of freaking Martinez and Gordon or something. It's gonna be like, man.
Because Arthur Smith might decide to take like Washington and make him a fullback and put him in him in goal line or something
100%.
ridiculously crazy. You know how he is.
Insane.
Yeah. So so we got through Wild. How about the team that's going to take a quarterback but isn't ready to really have a rookie quarterback?
Oh, the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I agree.
They just need Haslam needs. We need a couple more years, or at least another year, to just come down from. Here goes this too. You can make a lot of things right by making Travis Hunter the centerpiece of your franchise.
Yes.
The most unique player of this generation. You build it around him.
They're going to trade it away.
They're going to trade it away and fuck it up. And I'm going to be beside myself. But yeah, that's the funny thing is like they're going to trade it away and then take a Jaylen Milroe, ruin that kid's career. And we're all going to be upset. I'm going to be upset because Travis Hunter gets
I'm just going to be a Ravens fan full time now. Dude. It's all right, you
know. But yeah, that's my big. I do not want them to draft a rookie quarterback, like any of them. Like you need another year removed from the Deshaun Watson debacle. Like, do not like if they trade out of 2, they have lost their marbles. Like there is no chance.
Yeah,
I don't think they do it. Andrew Berry is kind of head over heels for Travis Hunter. It's funny because I actually think he's a really bright dude.
Right.
Like listening to him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why did you trade for Deshaun Watson?
Jimmy.
You see him. Yeah, Jimmy's. Jimmy needs to just sit at home with his hands tied behind his back and just not make a single decision.
Nobody around.
Just
blindfolded, duct tape.
Black room. Like you're done.
Yes.
We'll give you we'll give you a cup of water.
Yeah. Feed him some
cheese and just
some Ensure, whatever.
Yeah. Just hang out for 12 hours on each day.
Yeah.
And then but I mean I think
in Roger Goodell's closet.
Oh, sure. Somewhere having nothing to do with the phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think they're not ready for a rookie quarterback.
I agree completely. We can move on. Team that will take a running back early that will be an awful landing spot. I'm going to just say and see if you agree with me. Jacksonville with Ashton Genty. with Ashton Genty?
I do and I don't, because
Okay.
Liam Cohen,
Okay.
I think, can maximize Ashton Genty's skill set as a receiver.
Okay.
The
Good.
reason I do agree with you is that offensive line is putrid.
Yes.
And Ashton Genty's going to average like 4.2 yards per carry, and we're all going to get really upset. And also, too, you have ETN and Bigsby. Fine for now. Not
Feels
good,
in line.
but fine. Get a guy in the 5th, 4th round that's a starter.
Yeah.
Go get a Cam Scattaboo who can be your short yardage banger, whatever. Don't draft my favorite running back in this class with that putrid offensive line.
That's right.
Just do not. Like, they need, like, I think it's all smoke that they're going to draft him at 5.
Right.
I think this is what happens. I think the Cowboys or the Bears get on the phone, make that deal, and take Genty.
And if that happens, the Cowboys will be my second choice as the awful landing spot.
Terrible landing spot.
Yeah. The Bears, I would be thrilled. I would be happier with the Raiders than I would be with the Cowboys.
I'd be really upset if it was that, and that was my team.
Yeah.
That it was the Cowboys. Their offensive line is just so far away from being a caliber offensive line that you'd want a legitimate rushing talent to go to.
Yeah. So, how about you?
Cowboys.
Cowboys. So there we go.
For sure.
All right.
I mean, it's just not I mean, they're one of those teams where it's like if you have a talented running back go there, you got to rebuild the trenches first.
Yeah.
Like, that's why you're right about Genty at 5. It's like, it looks good from like a fantasy standpoint because, Genty's he's the second option in the receiving game at that point too. Like, if you think about it,
Right.
there's not much there. So, yeah, I mean, it's good from that standpoint, but like, they're not going to put up very many points. A,
Yeah.
B, that like you're not a high yards per carry line.
No.
So that needs to be bolstered in order to have a guy like that for sure.
If the ghost of Marty Schottenheimer was hired to to coach that team, and the offensive line is what it is now, I'd be more than happy with them taking Genty, because I know that the ghost of Marty Schottenheimer would make sure that by any means necessary they would have an offensive line that would make that work eventually, and he would get it done right quick and in a hurry.
That's competent enough.
Yeah, he'd probably sell Trevor Etienne for parts if he could to make that happen.
Trevor Travis, that parts either way.
Yeah, Trevor Travis, whatever his name is. He doesn't care. He just needs offensive linemen. I don't know who those guys are.
I actually think Trevor's a better back than his older brother Travis.
Yes,
but,
I would agree. Yeah. But I was thinking Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, Travis Lawrence, Trevor Etienne. They're disposable at this point. I'm trying to get me alive. I'm just summoning what I know from what I've seen of that coach way back in the day. But yeah, listen, this was great. We got the draft tomorrow. I hope everybody enjoys it. I know that that this is a fun time for everybody to have their hopes up for what their team's going to be able to do, where the fantasy landing spots are, get a chance to kick back and do something fun away from work. And so we definitely hope that you enjoy that. You can definitely find Brandon and I on X, and I'm sure we'll be commenting throughout the week and on shows and doing that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
The post-draft will be coming out in a week from this Saturday. Brandon's work's going to be coming out after the draft as well.
Yeah.
So great stuff ahead. We thank you for listening.
Yes, sir. Have fun.
Take care, folks.